left off, and you want to refresh everybody's memory kind of where we're at?
Well, yeah, as I don't have any new documents tonight. We're just going to work off the documents that were provided on the 21st meeting, where we were talking about the levy would be 80 cents decrease due to the employee benefits levy going down to use up some fund balance. It would be as proposed, a balanced budget, and we've got some areas where we're looking for council direction on if there's any changes you'd like to see. Give us some direction on that. The outside agency funding in this budget proposal, they were left the same, and so that of course needs to be discussed and decided on. And I see we have outside agency representatives here who may have input, and then we'll leave that up to the mayor on how to proceed with that. So, in fact, that might be a good place to start, maybe.
Okay, sounds good. Raise your hand who wants to go first. Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, council, city manager, I'm here on behalf of the Greater Franklin County Chamber of Commerce, the design committee for the facade grant program. I've been up here before in the past years for Main Street, as some of the other committee members and stuff have here too. It's been a tough sell, Main Street has. It really has. Over the years, we've struggled with this identity, it seems like some people get it and some don't. Either you really get it or you don't get it, Either the cities get it or they don't get it, And, I just wanted to bring, some of the things, to light here about what our committee and stuff is doing and why we need the money, Years ago, Bob Davies had asked me, called me up and says, hey, we got some people wanting to put a company in town, would you drive them around and show them our town? And so I met with these gentlemen and I said, well, let me take you out and show you our industrial area. That's where we had an industrial park. And they said, oh, we've been out there. We don't want to see that. We've already seen it. And they said, well, what do you want to see? I said, well, show us your town. I said, what do you mean show us your town? And the guy said, show us your churches, show us your schools, show us your parks, show us your businesses. So I spent the greater part of the day, going around with this, gentleman. And I think it was, if I remember right, it was some type of, I think it was when that painting, powder painting was just, powder coat painting was just coming on board. And one thing they were impressed with was the trading post, and they were impressed with the Scandinavian. And they wanted to know if we had a lot of Scandinavians in town, And if you don't know what the Scandian is, you didn't grow up here or you're too young, So everybody knows what that was. But, they never came to our town. And I often wondered, why did they not come? When the Iowa Economic Development said, okay, we got to help these small towns out, So they created the Main Street program. And it is economic development through historic preservation. And I really think that sometimes historic preservation is what trips people up. I mean, a building don't have to be 100 years old. It can be 10 years old and be historic to our community, So we got to work with what we got. And, one of the main things is we try to make our downtown look good. So when that company comes to town and they, first thing they're going to do, yeah, they might want something in the industrial park, but the first thing they're going to do is check out the rest of our town. And when they come downtown, we want it to look good, and they look at our businesses. We work on the corridors coming in and out of town, and that's very important, and that's economic development. We are a big part of that economic development. We've got the Main Street status. A lot of people would love to have that status that we have, and in fact, they're probably hoping we fail so that they'll add more towns so that they can have it. But I met with a gentleman the other day, and his name is Dennis Jasmer. He's with Catalina Tempering out of California. He's the Chief Operating Officer. This is the company that just purchased the Winnebago building, okay? And he called me and wanted to meet with me on a couple things. And when we got done, I asked him, I said, well, why did, you know, he says, well, we moved here because we want to get a bunch of business from our competitors in Minnesota. I said, well then why'd you come to Hampton, you know? And he says, you know what, you had an airport, you're close to Minnesota. He says, you got an airport, we got a couple jets, that works perfect for us. Plus we went around your town and you got all the amenities that we need, you know, and that's what we like to hear, you know, when companies come to town. So, in town, we have 175 businesses. I think they employ about 700 employees, by me and my wife's calculations. And, you know, as far as I know, that makes them the largest employer of small businesses in this town, the largest employer. So, you know, I just can't. I've been in business, had businesses downtown, just like a lot of you have. You know, you got to take your hat off to them. You know, it's tough. You know, you go buy an $80,000, $100,000 old building, throw $100,000 worth of merchandise and try to make it. It's tough, you know, and not very rewarding. The facade grant money, though, even though we're using that to help businesses and fix up the facades to make them look good, so when other businesses or industries come to town, you know, it doesn't just stop there. It trickles down, you know. So we gotta have a carpenter to build this or fix this on that building. Masons, lumber stores, the hardware store, everybody benefits. Those people all have houses, pay property taxes, and maybe we can even fix up a building enough that, you know, hold the value of the property taxes up there, and which will benefit the city eventually. So, personally, and this isn't my committee, this is me, I personally think $5,500 is a slap in the face to every business in this town. And, you know, that's $31 per business, you know. I want to see the program grow. Our committee would like to see it going the other direction, not being cut. If we're going to do it, let's do it. Yes, we're asking for money. We don't want the money to come from Franklin County Development, away from them. They're doing a great job. Karen's doing a great job, you know, they got a great program going here. You know, we're part of the state of Iowa economic development, is what we are part of, Main Street is. And, you know, we don't want to hinder Franklin County Development's efforts in any way. We want to make their job easier. So when Karen has somebody come to them and they drive them around town, they see these nice little improvements and stuff and say, yeah, let's relocate that. So, you know, I urge you to strongly consider more money for this facade grant program. I've said enough. Unless you have any questions for any of us in the committee. Thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
Our executive board at Greater Franklin County Chamber met yesterday, and they wanted me to speak on behalf of them. According to our bylaws, I can speak on behalf of the whole board. They want to make sure that everyone understood that our board, the full board, has no control over the design committee. The design committee manages that facade grant on their own. There's no influence over that committee from the chamber board. And also that they wanted to make sure that you realize that the whole board, speaking on behalf of the whole board, that they are in favor of increasing the design facade grant. But they wanted to make sure you all understood they want at the expense of no other agency, especially Franklin County Development. I sat through those budget meetings, and they all are worthy They're all needed. We just don't want you to think that we want you to take away from an agency to fund the facade grant. So just want to make sure the board realize that. And we also support completely Franklin County Development's budget. So thank you. Was there questions?
If I'm remembering correctly, last year, last fiscal year, or whatever your year was, it was 8,000. You were just shy of $8,000, right?
We requested.
$70-some.
We requested 8,000.
And you spent all but?
For this year, we've spent all of, we have allocated all of the $29. Of the $13,000, we've used it for the facade grant, meaning city, according to the city budget, you look at $5,500. The chamber voted to put in more to fund it, so we've had $13,000 worth of facade grant, and we've allocated all but $29 of it. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Any discussion on the facade grant program for the council? Questions? Heard from a couple of different people here. Anything?
Ron, how would that impact if we, let's say, took it out of the general fund reserve? The difference to give them up to their requested amount?
Well, the facade grant and the Main Street are funded through TIF, so I think that would be more of an impact on the general fund by, if you took it from the general fund reserve, than if you were to fund it through, increase it through TIF. Does that make sense?
Yes. So we could, so like the option would be we could take more out of TIF then?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you see any ill effects coming from that if we were to take it out of TIF?
Well, I can't predict the future.
No. But you know
Basically,
they're
in
down.
general, the more projects you fund out of TIF, we then have to certify that as a TIF debt to the county. And then, the more you certify, then they have to pull enough valuation out of your general valuation to get the TIF. So the more you're asking for in TIF revenues, the less you have available to levy under the general levy, the
Right.
810 levy that supports the general fund.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I was thinking of the right stuff.
So then would that impact our potential levy decrease in any way?
No, because the levy decrease is a result of the employee benefits fund, not the general fund.
I guess I don't know where to start, but I don't think by offering $5,500 that the council ever intended for that to be a slap in anybody's face. In fact, I think that was quite generous. That's more than some communities give towards anything for another person's building. You know, I don't know how much the Windsor put in a new door. How much did that affect your property taxes? You know, what kind of property taxes does the Windsor pay? I mean, granted, it was a beautification, it was probably a security need too, but sometimes we do things because we need to do them.
Well, at one time, the Windsor was paying $9,000 a year, but now we're a nonprofit, and we did request, and so we are not paying any more property tax. We've made our last payment the last around. So the Windsor itself is not paying property taxes because we're a 501c3.
So a nonprofit still benefited from the facade grants.
Correct.
But anyway, like I said in the other meetings, I do see benefit in the program, but I just have a hard time thinking that taxpayers' dollars should pay for somebody else's building.
Also, first or second time I've heard of taking money from FCDA, which I think is ludicrous, because I'm not gonna punish FCDA for the good work that they've done.
Well, they didn't say they didn't recommend taking any money from them. Did I misunderstand?
They said
what you
that, but the discussion was last week. of doing
Discussion at the
that.
last
Right,
meeting.
but they just said now,
Not
contrary to
them.
that.
They were very direct in saying that.
I understand that. That wasn't the way it was last.
Well, why don't we go on what it is now? That's what they said, they recommended not taking from any other, if I understood that correctly, tonight.
Right. But I just made the statement that I thought it was ludicrous to try.
No one said to now. I guess I don't understand what you're saying.
Didn't you propose last week, or suggest to take money from FCDA
That's what I was talking
to use it to.
Right, that was last week.
I understand what it was, I just repeated it.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want that on my campaign poster today.
No one's saying that tonight.
The discussion last week was holding the line on any kind of spending, and the proposal on the table potentially now is to look at another avenue to be able to provide some extra funding for this facade grant. And, I personally think that it'd be a good consideration for us to bump this by at least 2,000 to 7,500. I know they're asking 10, but I think the benefit that the community receives from this is well worth that expenditure.
I'm still new to all this budgeting, so I'm not even new to the money part of it, but I did think about this today. My license was expired, and hopefully the chief doesn't hear that, so, for the last 6 months. And anyways, I went into the courthouse. I just thought I'd lighten the mood a little. I gotta be the only one driving in the household now, so let me be here. But anyway, I was going into the courthouse and I looked over at downtown. And like I said, all this is still new to me and I'm still learning. And it is impressive. I mean, I am proud to live here and I'm proud to walk downtown. And if it is at all possible, to keep the upkeep, to keep the improvements coming, I'd like to see that. But like I said, I've got to learn more about this budgeting and where the money comes, but I just would like to say that what you've done so far with the money and the people involved, you've done a fantastic job. I'm proud when I have people, I have a girlfriend from Dallas, Texas, and she comes here and she's like, oh my gosh, it's Mayberry. And it is, it's neat. So that's all I wanted to say.
Karen, do you have?
May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dither here. We appreciate the support from Chamber and the Main Street organizations, and I'm here to say that we would hope that the council can find a way to increase the monies available so that their efforts can get funded without cutting ours. Keep in mind, we no longer have the Maytag revenue, so we've already really seriously tightened up on our efforts. And we can't afford any other cuts. But to the extent that you can get creative and find additional funding, we would support the facade program as well. We fully acknowledge the Main Street program and the Chamber are vital to the community. And they do an important part in creating image. And I trust that committee. If Joel Orr's on top of it, that's all I need to know. I'm good with that. So I'm just here to say that we appreciate their position, we support their efforts, and would encourage you to find a way to just make more money available so everybody can be made at least reasonably happy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Clarifying the discussion points that Steve brought up, Councilman Lukensmeyer made the not proposal, but made the mention last week that how he arrived at that mention that possibly FCDA get cut is I had made the comment that if we're going to talk about increasing any program, since we currently are presented with proposal for a balanced budget, anywhere there's an increase, there should also be a decrease. Being FCD and Main Street are TIF-funded programs, that's where that kind of came in. That's how that discussion got brought up. I just wanted to clarify that. Is there any suggestion from the council on which direction to go with this?
Great. I'd like to ask Joel a question. Do you have any idea how many applicants you have so far for next year that you're looking at? I know way in the future, but do you have some that you have pending yet?
Well, no, I mean, when we get the money, then in June, we'll allocate, out and
But you don't
let
have
the
anything
business.
you're holding over, any applications you're holding over?
Well, there's $29 that have not been allocated. When we give a store a grant, it's a matching grant, okay? And they have 1 year to complete that project. Now, there are three, I don't have my sheet in front of me, there's 3 that are gonna do it this spring. They were approved, you know, last summer, and they got 1 year to complete it, and they're gonna be doing that this summer. And I guess if we could probably, you wanna
Yeah.
hear who they
No,
want?
We've had numerous calls wanting to know about grants, and I've discouraged, we only have $29. We had a call yesterday, Blinn Krabby, the awning, which would, you know, and it's just like, Blinn, you can apply, we only have $29, so, and what we're trying to consider is what, do we need to change the whole facade grant based upon the monies we have? And that's our last meeting. We're kind of waiting to see what comes out of these meetings to decide how to proceed.
We can't give it out till we got it, so, you know, but it all has been allocated, so, out for projects.
Ron, one of the points of contention, or not contention, but points of discussion is cities are waiting because they're unsure of exactly what direction the state legislature is gonna go. I think it's probably safe to assume we're gonna need to do a budget amendment at some point in some amount of money. Would it be possible for the council to increase funding in that budget amendment for an outside agency?
As long as the event, you can't later on request more in a property tax. So it's not property tax related.
Okay.
I would assume that could be done.
Well, I'm just in the good fortune that we would end up with more money available than what we're planning on.
By increasing the facade grant contribution, it wouldn't affect the general fund. All other things staying the same, it wouldn't affect the balanced general fund proposal that we propose, because it's TIF funding, so I just want to be clear on that.
Another question, tell me again how much you were proposing to allocate.
7,500.
In the spirit of compromise and no cuts to FCDA, I can support that. I still am not a fan of using our money to fix up other people's buildings, but we're still getting a net result of the property, and I've said it before. And I agree with Karen Mitchell. If Joel's involved, I gotta agree with that. I've worked with Joel a lot of years. We always went to him, but when I ran different organizations to do things for us, and the job got done, and it was done right every time. And I could live with that.
Is there an agreement to that point? Any other questions or comments? Okay. So we've got consensus then at this point?
No.
No? That was posed as a question.
Well, if we're gonna increase it 2,000, what's the difference if we do another 2,500 to make it 5? Or get it up to the 10?
Question for anybody in particular? or
Just a thought,
Okay.
but you asked for consensus, and I think we should get the whole, and I mean, I'll agree with whatever we ultimately agree, but I'm not gonna say I consent to that when I don't.
Okay.
Could we have Joel comment?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did you have something specific you wanted to comment on?
What do you want me to comment on that? You know, you're gonna, with $10,000, you'll see the improvements, you know. And like I said, if we can move this program, keep moving it forward, you know, it could, you know, the benefit that Hampton could see from this. You know, Craig, I agree with you. You know, I mean, I hear it all the time with Main Street too. All they care about is the downtown businesses, you know, and they don't care about nothing else, you know. We've changed that image, I think, and well, we're working on changing that image, you know. With the TIF money, we work with everybody in the TIF district, you know, Butch Grokey. You know, years ago, we couldn't have been able to do what we did for Butch. We designed, you know, had an architect come in and design that whole front for Butch. We paid for $1,000 of his $5,000 audit, you know, and helped him with the layout and design. And Butch is still gonna put on some neon lighting and stuff that we suggested, you know. I mean, you know, for $1,000, we got a lot of bang for our buck, you know. And for $10,000, you'll get a lot of bang for your buck, okay? And I tell you, you will, and you'll be able to see it, you know. you know, when you're talking a few $1,000s, you just don't see it. You know, Marty and Bob Harmon, if it wouldn't have been for the grant program, they wouldn't have tore down that facade, that shingled facade that was Campbell's TV forever, you know what I'm saying? And it looks nice. You know, it looks more modern, more up to date, you know, it looks nice without that. You know, we've got a Hispanic population. They're growing and growing and growing downtown that we really need to work with, you know. You know, they're purchasing buildings, they're buying opening businesses, and we know that, and we got to work with those property owners because we want every building in town to look good. So I say, give us $10,000 and we'll give you your bang for your buck.
So if you didn't know what to say.
Oh, I did. So.
Just to clear one other thing
Yeah.
up, I've never been against Main Street.
Right.
In fact, go back and look at how I voted. In fact, I've been one of the stronger supporters on the council for it over the years. But the facade grant program, I thought that was a way to get something going, to compromise on the price. I agree with Jim. I respect his rights and opinion. That's where we're at now. We'll just talk about it, you know. So it's just that simple.
Yeah.
And I've never, for the record, I've never been against, all my votes have been for facade grants, for anything for Main Street. I've ever had a chance of working, I'd vote for it.
I'm certainly open to more, but the spirit of compromise is why I went to that figure. So I want to see a minimum of $7,500 go toward the program.
I know, Jim, it's only another $2,500 too, but we didn't give anything to anybody else. And there's some other programs too that probably could have used that $2,500 if we raised it to 10.
Right,
So-
but they're not here asking like they are.
But they did, they did. They provided information for us.
Oh, I agree, but I disagree. I mean, I respect the rest of the council, but I see no reason that we have to compromise on this. I think we should give them $10,000, period, or more. But I'll compromise at $10,000.
Well, and I still go back to what I said before, you know, based on the state property tax rollback. At some point in time, I think that you've just freed up a bunch of personal property owners' own money if the state does roll that back. To the
Yeah.
point where they can take care of it. That's exactly right, big if. But we've seen it happen before. If that's the case, they can fund it with their own money. That's the way I see it, and I still stand behind that. But this is a different situation, and right now, and I agree with the 7,500, but let's vote, or whatever.
We had 5,500 because there was a $3,500 balance from the previous year. Well, let's make one more step to make it 8,000 and get moving.
Can I make a?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the treasurer for the Hampton Area Specialist Shops, and it's hard to get money. I've never done this before. I've never been in the council chamber, so I hope I do this right. It's hard to get money for some of these businesses because we all pull our money for advertising to bring businesses, you know, people from out of town to shop and shop local. Some of these businesses have a hard time paying us to do the advertising. And we funded a sign for a couple of these businesses that they're renting the property. It's not their property to fix up, but we funded the signs. And that helped them save money to have these signs. So we could have, they can, you know, bring in more people, more sales tax to help us, to help the community. By having the sales tax, it keeps them viable, it keeps them there. And that's what we're all about, is with the design, is just keep it going. I still believe with the design, if we had had this Main Street program years ago, we still have that building on the corner where, you know, we'd have people that could help keep that big building going. You'd have more sales tax, more property tax instead of an empty lot sitting there. So I just wanted you to know too, we're all working together. We work hard on this every week or every month, trying to get people in, and 10,000 would be great. We could keep more people going. We don't have a lot of applications right now because we haven't asked for people to come in, because we're waiting for that to come as soon as we have the money. And I hope that helps you kind of understand, like, even though people don't own the buildings, we've been getting them, signage to help them keep their business going, because otherwise they can't afford the signs. And that way they can keep their business going and up, and they don't have to invest the money in that, and they can keep the product in their stores. Any questions on this? Will that help a little bit?
Thanks. The 8,000 would keep us where we were. There'd be no cut, well, to their budget. It would remain the same.
So should we move forward with 8,000?
I'm still for 10. I think the program has proven itself. You're getting more money back. How much money have they gotten for putting in the money spent, Brooke? What was like the return that the?
About 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting money back there. They're on a roll, and I think we need to help them keep going with that.
One thing I'd like to say is, like I mentioned before, is I've seen the difference. And I do think we need to keep it growing. So I'm kind of siding toward Jim here, because I just think it's really important to keep giving to this design committee and this grant to keep the businesses down there. I know we have one business that even expanded to Mason City, and I was just, I couldn't tell her enough times how impressed I was with that. And I've worked downtown when that particular store was under a different name, and the people that we had come out of town and make comments about how, unique our downtown was and the different shops and stuff. So, I'm kind of with Jim with the extra $2,000. If Joel's saying, I don't even know Joel, and he's got me sold. If he's saying $10,000,
He can do it.
he can do it. I'm saying that lightly, but I mean that. You've sold me, and like I said, today I honestly did. I had one of those moments as I was going in the courthouse, and I looked over and I thought, wow. And I've seen a difference in I've been here 18 years, I've been in Hampton, and it's incredible. So I'm kind of leaning towards with Jim. I say we go with the 10 and give us what you say, the bang for our buck, and let's do it.
And you look at the money we just finished up spending on Progress Park, all the amenities and all that, and like when Karen shows a prospect around, that's great to look at. I just want to keep, now it's time we have to keep going with the downtown in the Main Street area.
And that's a good point, because the way that park was before, I wouldn't have wanted to drive future or potential buyers around. I wouldn't want to drive them by that. The aquatic center was gorgeous, but improving that park has made a huge difference.
Well, in the interest of moving things along here, why don't we go around the table? Tell me a number where you're at, Dick. Starting with you.
I've already said.
It's a record, isn't it, Jim?
8 or above.
Okay. Val?
I'm going 10.
Jim?
12. No, I want the 10, I said that.
Okay. Diane?
10 with reservations, can I say
So is that 9?
that? 9.75. Okay, I'll go 10, but I'm gonna be hard next year, I guarantee that. Because we didn't give anybody else anything, and it still is property taxes to property owners.
Craig, are you still at 75?
Yes, sir.
Steve? What do you think?
Come on, Steve.
I wanna go home, 10. You wore me down.
There you go, consensus is 10, so.
I agree with Diane. It'll be tougher next year.
I'll write that down.
Go for it.
And I guess it's for Ron to figure out, as far as the accounting goes, as far as the TIF side of it, but I would still say, I wanna see that money come from somewhere. I mean, if it can't come from FCDA, and I completely understand, I wanna see FCDA completely funded. But somehow, I'd like to see this budget remain balanced in some, I mean, even if, yeah, go ahead, Craig.
I would like to ask Karen at FCDA, are you sure you don't need more money? Now might be the time to ask.
What I'd like
Kind of
is a
giving
sense
food.
from the council as to whether you would dip into our side to fund this signage or not. Or can we consider that we would be fully funded at what we requested?
That would have been the intent, I thought, just keep it
That's
fully funded.
yes.
All right, that just wasn't clear to me.
Well, that's the
Absolutely.
way I gathered it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I think that discussion was in terms of, what if type thinking, so
Okay.
I think you're safe.
But you can't leave till the meeting's over.
Jeez.
That could be over right now, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we work something out here?
From the design committee, we'd like to thank you.
Thank you, Joel, for coming. Okay. John, what else are we talking about?
Well, Main Street, 12,000, we just need consensus on all these, 12,000 for Main Street.
Are you gonna ask everybody, or?
Well, you know, I kind of did that to get away from the discussion, and
Yeah.
in a workshop setting, I don't want to do an actual vote.
No, I understand, but it's just
It's
consensus.
similar to a committee where,
Yeah.
if the
You
two
know,
of the three agree,
right.
then that's how we're proceeding.
Right, exactly.
I don't have a problem with the 12 of them.
No.
If I don't hear an objection, we'll go.
You're gonna say 14 now?
Don't even ask. They gotta stay and find out what they're getting, don't they? Isn't that a law?
Karen, you can't leave yet.
Why?
Bye, Karen.
Come on, person of interest is on.
Have a good night, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah, we're gonna leave SCDA at 25.
I think we've already established that CDA will stay at 45. We'll just work up the list here, I think. 4,000 for the senior center is what we had discussed. Is there any discussion on that?
I was not able to talk with them, but, you know, we had talked about what they might have in their reserves, or was it IRMA account?
Yeah, IRMA account.
Did we ever find out?
I talked to Mary Lee about that, and she was gonna talk with John Elsko, who does their stuff, and she hasn't got back to me yet.
Well, I can't imagine it's like a huge
No,
amount.
and she said the reason why we have that IRMA account is because we have a number of large appliances for the kitchen and stuff that could break, but they'd have to pull the money out of their hat, so that's pretty much what they do with it. Coffee pot that they got down there now is $1,500. That was donated by the Likely family, by the way, so.
That's all I really had about that, I was just curious.
So what do we think, $4,000 for the senior center? Any further questions on that? Does that sound agreeable to everybody? 6,900 for the municipal band, that's steady from the last quite a few years.
That's fine.
Yep.
250 for the historic commission.
Yeah, that
We
covers.
received a
So
report
what do you
from
do
them.
about Jim?
Well, we joined the Preservation Iowa, and then there is like a required training that one of us has to go to every year, and so there's usually an expense there, which is
Does that
like.
cover it?
Oh, yes, it'll cover it.
Alcoholism Service Center requested 13,000.
They didn't specify an amount, I don't think, did they? Or did
Did
they?
they?
Yeah.
Same as last year.
Same as last.
Yeah, the senior center was the only one that didn't have a specific amount. Okay, so 13,000 for the Franklin County Alcoholism Service Center. And then the library, previous years funded at 80,000, requesting 85,000. Discussion? I know they've got some projects they wanna do, they've got increasing.
We've also got a lot of income.
So do we wanna stay at 80 with the library?
I'd stay at 80.
Is that agreeable to everybody? Any other suggestions? Jim?
mean, I'd like to give them more, but like I said, where do we take it from? And we have done the facade, so.
And they do have a lot of income on it right now. It'd be different if they were really hurting. My sister will kill me for this, but.
Is there another amount suggested, stay at 80? Okay,
That's approved.
okay. All right, we made it through the outside agency, John. Did you want to go?
Does anybody, Diane brought up a couple items just for clarification that, one line item that had no dollar amount in the sewer liability, which, was just a typo, and so we got that taken care of. Anybody have any other questions since we last met about the entire budget, or what's being proposed, projects, levy? Assuming no one wants to raise the levy.
So was that amount that was missing, was that actually figured in the total, or was it just missing in the line item?
No, it's missing in the line item and the total, but it's sewer, so we're under on expenditures, plenty of room, so.
It's revenue funded.
That's correct.
Question, we were foregoing any new mower.
Pardon?
We were foregoing any new mower, park and cemetery. What was the figure that we actually ended up including in your budget for maintenance and repair on mowers?
Maintenance and repair on mowers
Well,
specifically?
it wasn't
Well,
specific,
just a maintenance and repair, line item, it's not, we don't specify, I can tell you in a second here. Equipment repair and maintenance is 900, vehicle repair and maintenance is 3,000.
What page are you on, Ron?
Page 9 of the expenditures. That's for cemetery.
Okay.
Yep. Maybe it might be best to turn to that sheet, this one here with the line down the side. You can go down department by department. I think we've made it as far down to parks. I have a note here that you were okay with everything down to that line.
Mhm.
Cemetery, we just talked about mower replacement, was not in there. If you're okay with that, or if you want changes with that, this would be a good time to bring that up. And then also at City Hall, I have weight down, but we're crossing off the water fountain.
Where's Jim at on
You
that?
could ask
I'm
Joel.
okay
if
with
the
that.
facade-
Which gives you
Facade range.
888. Which gives you 888 in that fund. It gives you 888 in that fund if you,
Yes,
yeah.
that's right. Now we're 888
Messed that up.
revenues over the expenditures.
I just took a drink and it was pretty cool against the wall up there.
Yeah.
Where did we end up on the baseball commission? We were discussing that the other night.
Oh, yeah,
They request for fuel, I know.
It was, you were gonna give it some thought and decide tonight.
I know the request was access to city fuel. There was discussion just to give them a dollar amount.
I think that was pretty much consensus on
Yeah.
the dollar amount.
Yeah, I wasn't comfortable with letting anybody have
Right.
access.
Right.
I'd still sooner see donations, and I thought maybe we'd get some interest in it. Not one person I talked to at work or any place, because we mentioned it. It seemed like they were willing to give anything, which kind of surprised me, because a lot of people have children in baseball up there. So,
They're city taxpayers, they're gonna make a donation.
oh, I agree, but you could have done it without impacting.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a bit cheaper.
Yep. One way or the other. Anybody want to throw a dollar amount out there? What was the estimate? I forgot.
It's 150 gallons, I think, would be maybe an average year, like last year not being.
Are you
like a
talking about
normal year.
increasing the parks fuel line item by a certain dollar amount? as
No, I'm
opposed
just
to
saying,
giving
this,
them
that's
money.
what he requested was like 100, and then we thought 150 gallons, so whatever that would be worth might be the dollar value.
Right. And if you decided that would increase the line item, a fuel line item.
150 gallons, we're probably looking at about $450, I think is what we come up with last time.
So the water fountain.
I don't, I wasn't
$500.
asking, that was his.
We'll buy $50 a bottle of water.
I'm donating bottled water now.
I'm glad for what the program does, the other
Oh, yeah.
new programs that we have in town. I didn't really feel a sense of urgency in the request, and I guess I would be happy with letting, not putting anything into the budget that, for this year. And if they identified that their budget really was needy, next year consider it.
The only problem,
Is that, they didn't apply or didn't, respond. And they're financially okay. But, given the choices, if it was coming down to giving them gas or access, I would have preferred to give them money versus the access. Not that we don't trust them, but at least we know where everything's at. But I agree with you.
Tell James I'll mow one time for him. Here's my donation.
Okay.
Well, as long as you're there.
Yeah, I suppose. So where are we at then? I've got a proposal here to wait for a year on that.
So I'd go along with that. I think they were late, and I'm all for the baseball program, but I think I would just go along with what's been said so far, as far as wages.
Anybody feel strongly the other way?
Now, if they send me a name and an address, I'll send them a check to help donate for gas too.
Okay. All right.
Pot's building.
6 council people.
That's why I said the last meeting, we could take care of it.
Okay, I'm hearing no opposition, then we'll leave them out this time. So, okay. What else do you have for us, Ron? Through the outside agencies, we made it through your general fund expenditure considerations. Are there any particular line items that anybody seeing they want to address? Go ahead, Ron.
I guess I would just, regarding the levy, I would just have everybody, including the public, keep in mind that it's been the council's philosophy to, when we have the ability to reduce the levy, that they've taken steps to reduce the levy. It hasn't been the general levy, which is the $8.10 levy that we're at our max. We've been at our max for years, and which the majority of all small communities are at their max. So keep in mind that we're lowering, we have the opportunity to lower the levy because we've got the employee benefits levy has a fund surplus, or the fund has a surplus, and so we're spending that down. And next year, we may not be able to do that, and so the levy might have to come up. And you don't hear from people much when you lower the levy. You hear from them when you increase the levy. So it's gonna be a year and a half or 2 years, and you might have to raise it, then you're gonna hear from people. But you need to just keep that in mind, that in the future, remind folks if they do complain that when we do have an opportunity to decrease the levy, we take it. If we don't have an opportunity and we have no other choices, then we have to increase it. So it's just
And then, the next time they look at it, they say, well, my taxes went up. How come nothing, taxes went up if the levy went down? And you have to go into a, so it doesn't matter, it's a catch-22. People don't look at where that money's going. You have to actually show it to them.
But I guess I would just again ask if anybody has any further questions, or we take the information that you've determined by consensus tonight, we'll put it into an agenda for, on February 14th, we're scheduled to approve the drafted agenda, the drafted budget, and set a date for a public hearing. And then we would publish that proposed budget. And right now, we're scheduled to have a special meeting on March 11th to hold the public hearing, and then we would finally adopt the budget on March 11th at a meeting. And then on the 12th, we would submit the budget to the state. So, is that how the direction we want to continue on?
What did you say the date of the special meeting was?
Well, it's a workshop night. It's the 11th, yeah, the 11th of March. Monday. So I don't have anything else unless anybody else has anything.
Going once, yeah.
I guess some food for thought for everybody. I'm really concerned about this property tax rollback as a state, and I think if you feel the same way, that, you know, we need to protect our communities, it's one thing to roll them back. Small communities like this could really be severely impacted by this. Contact your legislators and let them know. They want to hear from you on issues, and this is the prime opportunity to get in touch with them.
Anything else? Going once, going twice. 8:11, we're adjourned.